Oakwood, I'm Millie Dean, here with your national news needs. Here's the Chop. We've got lots of news to cover today, so let's get started. To kick us off, the U.S. invaded Venezuela in early January 2026, capturing President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, with the Trump administration citing narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and national security as reasons. But critics also point to controlling oil resources and weakening China as key motives. Additionally, regarding the president, Donald Trump suggests that the U.S. needs to, in his words, own Greenland to prevent Russia and China from doing so. The president stated that the U.S. will do it, quote, one way or another. The White House recently stated that the administration was considering purchasing the semi-autonomous territory of fellow NATO member Denmark, but that it would not rule out the option of annexing it by force. Last weekend, people took to the streets in cities across the country to protest the Trump administration's immigration enforcement tactics following the death of Renee Good in Minneapolis, a 37-year-old woman who was shot and killed by a U.S. ICE officer last week after an altercation. The ICE officer is citing self-defense. At least 1,000 events across the U.S. were planned for Saturday and Sunday. In other news, a protest in Iran has claimed a large number of lives as Iran entered the third week of a national anti-government protest amid the communications blackout imposed by authorities. For our last bit of hard news, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Health and Human Services released updated federal dietary guidelines on January 7, 2026. These guidelines emphasize prioritizing whole foods, increasing protein intake, consuming full-fat dairy, and strictly limiting high-processed foods and added sugars. In other news, a group of Buddhist monks from Texas are walking 2,300 miles to Washington, D.C. The Walk for Peace aims to spread a message of compassion, unity, mindfulness, embodying peace through their meditative journey and connecting with communities all along the way. Despite facing challenges like an accident where one monk lost a leg but chose to continue. They are walking from Fort Worth, Texas through multiple states, sharing their message of inner peace, and plan to conclude their pilgrimage in February 2026 at the U.S. Capitol. For our last bit of news today, Are You Dead is a new viral Chinese safety app for young people living alone, sending emergency alerts if users don't check in daily. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Chop. See you next time, Oakwood.